My wife cheated with our neighbor, then staged a fake robbery to cover her affair. She stole $250, $0 from our joint account, and now she's claiming I've been embezzling everything, while secretly planning to sell our house for $500, $0 to run away with her lover. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. It all started with a gut feeling I couldn't quite shake. You know that moment when everything seems normal but deep down something feels off? That was me. My wife, Lisa, had always been a little demanding, a little bitchy even, but I loved her. We'd been married for 10 years, and for the most part I thought we had a good life. Nice house, decent jobs, enough money to get by, and 2 kids we adored. But lately she'd been acting different, more distant, secretive even. She'd come home late, dodge my questions, and suddenly money was always tight, even though I knew we had plenty saved up. It wasn't until I accidentally stumbled on her phone that I started to suspect something really was wrong. I was in the kitchen grabbing a beer after work when I saw a message pop up on her screen. It was from some guy named Jake. The message was flirtatious, full of emojis and suggestive comments. My stomach sank. I didn't even know she was talking to him, let alone like that. I glanced over her shoulder and she was right there, acting innocent like I was imagining things. But I was. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the messages, the way her phone kept buzzing late at night when she thought I was asleep. Over the next few days I started paying closer attention. She was sneaking around more, hiding her phone, deleting texts. I found receipts for dinners at some restaurant I'd never heard of, always when I was working late. One evening I followed her when she said she was going to the grocery store. Instead, she drove to that same restaurant. I parked a block away and saw her walk in with Jake. She was laughing, touching his arm. That was the moment I knew. My wife was cheating on me with the neighbor, Jake. The guy who always seemed too friendly, too eager to help with little things around the house. It hit me like a punch in the gut. I felt numb, angry, betrayed. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so naive. I'd always trusted Lisa, even when she was bitchy, even when she snapped at me for no reason. Now I saw her for what she really was, a liar, a cheat, an actress playing her part beautifully until she got caught. I needed to confront her, but I also needed a plan. This wasn't just about cheating. It was about money, trust, and the future I thought we had. I knew I had to be careful because she wasn't just some innocent wife anymore. She was dangerous and she was planning her next move. The very next day, I decided I'd had enough of her lies. I waited until she was at work, then snuck into her phone to see what else I could find. That's when I discovered the real bombshell. Hidden in her messages was talk of a fake robbery she'd staged. She was planning to make it look like someone broke into the house, stole jewelry, some cash, and even some of our valuables. But the real target was the bank account. She had already transferred $250, $0 of our joint savings into an offshore account. She was planning to disappear with Jake, sell the house for around $500, $0, and leave me with nothing but an empty shell. I couldn't believe how far she'd gone. All those years I thought we were building a life, and now I saw her plotting her escape, lying about everything, even trying to cover her tracks with a fake robbery. She was calling me an embezzler now, saying I'd been stealing from her all along. She'd spun this web so tight I didn't know what to believe anymore. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach 100 times over. My mind was racing. What do I do? Do I confront her? Do I call the police? Do I fight for my family or just burn it all down and walk away? I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Not without a fight. I had to think, to plan, to figure out how to turn this around. Because if she thought she could steal everything, cheat, and lie her way out of it, she was dead wrong. I was angry, yes, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. This wasn't just about betrayal, it was about justice. And I was going to get it. After I found out about the fake robbery and her plans to run away with Jake, my mind was spinning. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smiling, innocent, pretending everything was fine while secretly plotting her escape. I'd always known Lisa could be bitchy and manipulative, but this was next level. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was actively trying to wipe me out financially, destroy our life, then leave me with nothing. The betrayal cut deep, but what stung even more was realizing I'd been blind for so long, trusting her even when her actions didn't add up. The first thing I did was get a copy of all her messages, bank statements, and the receipts I'd found. I needed proof, something I could take to the authorities if it came to that. I also called a lawyer I knew just to get some advice. I told him everything about the affair, the staged robbery, the money transfers. He listened carefully, then told me I was sitting on a potential goldmine of evidence. According to him, her plans to sell the house, steal the money, and run off with Jake were all part of a well-orchestrated scheme. He warned me to be very cautious, because she'd probably try to gaslight me, deny everything, and make me seem crazy if I confronted her prematurely. I decided I needed to see her before she made her move. I wanted to catch her in the act, or at least get her to admit what she was planning. So I arranged to come home early from work one day, pretending I was working late. I waited until she was supposed to be at her office, then I went back to the house. I hid in the garage, watching her through the window. Sure enough, she was on the phone, whispering in that bitchy, condescending tone she always used when she thought no one was listening. She kept referencing the plan, the money, the house, and Jake. She looked nervous but also excited. It was obvious she was getting ready to make her move. When she finally hung up, I stepped inside. She jumped, trying to hide her face. I could see the panic in her eyes. I didn't yell. I wanted to see what she'd do. I told her I knew everything about Jake, about the money, about the fake robbery. Her face twisted into a sneer and she started lying right away. "You're crazy," she spat. "You've been embezzling money from me all along. You're the one who's been stealing, not me. You're just jealous because I have a lover and a plan to start fresh. You're so insecure." I couldn't believe her audacity. She was twisting everything, trying to turn the tables on me, but I had the proof. I showed her the bank statements, the receipts, the messages. Her face drained of color. She tried to deny everything, but I wasn't buying it. I told her I knew about the offshore account, the transfer of $250, $0, the staged robbery. I told her I was done playing her game. I was furious, but I kept my voice steady. I told her she had two choices: come clean, or I'd go to the police and take her down for fraud, theft, and conspiracy. She started crying, bitching about how I was ruining her life, how she only wanted a fresh start, how Jake was just a distraction, and how I was just a jealous, controlling husband. She begged, pleaded, even accused me of being emotionally abusive. That was the moment I realized how far gone she was. She was willing to lie, cheat, and steal her way out of this mess, even if it meant destroying our family. I knew I had to act fast before she made her move on the house or tried to cover her tracks further. Over the next few days, I devised a plan. I contacted the bank, froze the offshore account, and set up a way to track any further transfers. I also hired a private investigator to follow her, just to confirm her whereabouts and her meetings with Jake. Meanwhile, I kept my cool, pretending everything was normal, while secretly gathering more evidence. Every time she tried to act innocent or accuse me of stuff I didn't do, I stayed calm and collected. I knew she was trying to manipulate me, but I was 2 steps ahead. One night I found out from the pie that she was planning to meet Jake again, probably to finalize her escape. I had to act fast. I decided to confront her again, this time with the evidence fully in hand. I wanted her to see I wasn't bluffing, that I was serious about stopping her. I also called the police just to have a record of everything. I wasn't planning to let her walk away with everything she wanted, not without a fight. I knew I had to be smart, patient, and relentless, because if I didn't act now, she'd be gone, and I'd be left in the wreckage of what used to be my life. The confrontation I planned was intense, but I knew it had to be. I waited until she was out of the house on some business trip, or so she said. I didn't believe her anymore. I wanted her to think I was clueless, that I was just some naive husband who trusted his wife blindly. I set up everything so I could catch her in the act, or at least get her to admit what she'd been up to. I had the evidence ready, screenshots of her messages, bank statements, the pie's reports. My heart was pounding, but I kept my face calm. When she finally came home that evening, I was sitting in the living room, pretending to be relaxed. She looked surprised, maybe even a little annoyed that I was there. I didn't waste time. I told her I knew about the affair, the fake robbery, the money transfer, everything. Her eyes widened for a second, then she sneered. "You're insane," she spat. "You're just jealous because I want out. You think I'm stupid. I've covered my tracks perfectly. You're the one who's been embezzling from me, not the other way around." I pulled out the bank statements, the messages, the receipts. Her face twisted into a mask of rage and disbelief. She tried to deny everything, but I cut her off. "You're planning to sell the house, right? You and Jake are going to run away with $500,000, leaving me with nothing. Well, I've got news for you. The bank account's frozen. The offshore account is shut down, and I've already contacted the police about your little scam." I could see her trying to come up with some excuse, some lie, but she was cornered. She started yelling, calling me paranoid, claiming I was trying to destroy her. "You're just insecure," she hissed. "You don't want me to be happy. You're jealous of Jake. You're trying to control me." I didn't flinch. I just looked her in the eyes and said, "I know what you're planning. I know about your plan to fake a robbery, steal my money, and run off with Jake. And I'm not going to let you get away with it. Not this time." Her face turned red with fury. She stormed around the room, screaming at me, calling me every name in the book, but I stood my ground. I told her she had two choices. She could come clean and face the consequences, or I'd make sure she paid for everything she'd done. I was done playing her game. I was tired of being the fool, the naive husband who trusted his wife despite all the signs. She finally broke down, tears streaming down her face, trying to plead her way out of it. "You don't understand, I was just desperate," she sobbed. "Jake, the only one who makes me feel alive. You don't love me anymore, and I didn't see any other way out." I felt a strange mixture of anger and sadness. It wasn't just about the money or the affair. It was about the betrayal of everything I thought we had. I'd given her my trust for years, and she'd thrown it all away for some guy next door. That night I called the police, gave them everything I had, and filed a report. I wanted her to know I was serious. I also warned her that I'd be taking legal action to protect what little was left of our assets and to prevent her from selling the house or hiding any more money. I told her that I'd be fighting for my rights and that I wasn't going to let her destroy my life just because she was unhappy or bored. The next morning she was gone when I woke up. No note, no explanation, just empty space where she used to sleep. I called the lawyer again, and we started the process of freezing the house's title, investigating her financial moves, and preparing for what's next. I felt a strange mix of relief and dread. Relief because I finally had proof and she was caught. Dread because I knew this wasn't over. She was cunning and I had to stay one step ahead. As I sat there alone in the empty house, I couldn't help but reflect on everything. I'd been blindsided, betrayed, and hurt in ways I never imagined. But I also realized something. I deserved better than someone who'd lie, cheat, and steal from me. I'd been a good husband, a good father, and I wasn't going to let her take that away. I promised myself I'd rebuild, no matter how hard it was. Because at the end of the day, you learn who people really are when they think no one's watching, and Lisa had shown her true colors. After she left that morning, I sat alone in the house, feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. The silence was deafening. For years, I'd trusted her, believed in the life we built together. Now all I had were her lies, her schemes, and a sinking feeling that I'd been played for a fool. I kept replaying everything, her sneaky behavior, the late nights, the suspicious texts. It all made sense now. She'd been planning this for months, maybe longer. I immediately contacted my lawyer again. We went over the next steps, freezing her access to the house, protecting the remaining assets, and preparing for a legal battle. I also hired a private investigator to keep tabs on her movements. I wasn't about to let her disappear with our money or do a runner without a fight. I knew she was clever, probably already planning her next move, but I was determined to be ready. In the meantime, I started digging into our finances more thoroughly. I discovered she'd been siphoning off money little by little over the past year. Small transfers, offshore accounts I never knew about, secret credit cards. She'd been covering her tracks well, but now that I had the evidence, I could see the full picture. It was staggering. She stolen nearly $250,000, all hidden away in various accounts. And she was planning to sell the house, split the proceeds with Jake, and leave me with nothing but the wreckage of our life. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt betrayed, angry, and humiliated. How could she do this to me? How could she lie so convincingly for so long? I kept asking myself these questions, but there were no answers, just the cold reality of her treachery. I also felt a deep sadness. I'd loved her once, believed she was the one. Now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd thrown everything away for a cheap affair. I knew I had to keep my head clear. I couldn't let her see how much she'd hurt me. That would only give her the upper hand. So I stayed composed, gathering everything I needed to fight back. I also reached out to a few close friends, people I trusted, to get some support and perspective. They told me to stay strong, to protect myself and my kids, and to remember that I deserved better than someone who'd betray me so completely. One night, I got a call from the Pie. He'd been following her, and he caught her meeting Jake again, this time at a hotel nearby. They were acting nervous, trying to hide their faces. I felt a mix of rage and relief. Rage that she'd been so reckless, relief that I had proof she was planning to run. I decided then and there I'd confront her again, but this time with everything in hand. I wanted her to see I wasn't going down without a fight. I prepared a detailed timeline, all the evidence, and a plan to present it calmly. I knew she'd try to manipulate or gaslight me, so I had to be ready for her typical lies. The goal was to get her to admit everything, to see her cornered and desperate. I also made arrangements to have the police ready, just in case she tried to make a run for it or do something even more reckless. When she came back that night, I was waiting. The house was tense, heavy with unspoken accusations. I looked her in the eyes and laid everything out: her affair, the staged robbery, the money she'd stolen, and her plans to sell the house. Her face twisted in anger, then defiance. She denied everything, claiming I was crazy, that I'd been embezzling all along, and that I was just jealous of her happiness with Jake. She spun wild stories about how she'd only wanted to be free, that I'd never loved her, and that she was the victim here, but I had enough. I pulled out the evidence piece by piece and watched her try to scramble for excuses. Her voice trembled, her lies crumbled. I told her I'd already contacted the police, that I was filing for divorce, and that she'd be held accountable for her actions. She yelled, cursed, and threatened me, but I stayed firm. I knew this was just her panic mode kicking in. She was trying to save herself, but it was too late. That night, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. The woman I thought I knew was gone, replaced by someone cold, manipulative, and ruthless. I realized I'd been living in a fragile illusion of trust, and now I had to rebuild from the wreckage. I'd lost a lot: money, trust, a marriage, but I had gained clarity. I knew who she was, and I knew I couldn't let her destroy me. I'd do everything I could to protect myself and my kids, to start over, and to make sure she paid for what she'd done. Because at the end of the day, betrayal cuts deep, but it also teaches you who really matters. The days that followed that confrontation were a whirlwind. I spent most of my time coordinating with lawyers, the police, and the private investigator. Every hour felt like a battle to stay one step ahead of Lisa's next move. I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal, how she meticulously planned to steal our life savings, fake a robbery, and run away with Jake, all while lying through her teeth. It was a crushing blow, but I knew I had to stay strong, not just for myself, but for my kids. I managed to get a court order to freeze the house's sale, and I filed for divorce immediately. I didn't want her to get away with this, and I didn't want her to strip us of everything. The legal process moved quickly, thanks to the evidence I had gathered. She was trying to fight back, of course, calling me every name in the book, claiming I was the real criminal, accusing me of embezzling all along. But her words rang hollow. I had the proof. Every message, every bank transfer, every lie she'd spun was now in the hands of the authorities. Meanwhile, I kept an eye on her whereabouts. The Pie confirmed she was still trying to meet Jake, trying to finalize her plans to leave. I decided to go to her workplace to confront her face to face, just to see how far she'd go. I didn't want to scare her, but I wanted her to see I wasn't backing down. When I arrived, I saw her sneaking out of an office building with Jake. They looked nervous, trying to avoid eye contact. I approached her calmly but firmly. "Lisa," I said, voice steady, "you've crossed the line. I know everything. You're planning to sell the house, run away with Jake, and leave me with nothing. The police are involved now, and you're going to face some serious charges. You've lied, cheated, and stolen from us, and I won't let that go." Her face twisted into a sneer, and she snapped back. "You're just jealous. You're the one who's been embezzling all along. This is all your fault. You're insecure, controlling, and you don't want me to be happy." She was trying to gaslight me again, but I wasn't falling for it. I had the evidence, and I was ready to fight back hard. What struck me most was her sheer audacity. She was trying to turn the tables, make me look like the villain. But I knew better. I knew she'd been plotting her escape for months. Honestly, I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and frustration. I'd loved her once, believed we were building a future, and now I saw her for what she really was, a manipulative, selfish woman who'd do anything to get what she wanted. I told her she'd be better off cooperating, or I'd make sure she paid the price. I warned her that I was prepared to fight her in court, and that I'd do everything in my power to protect my kids and our assets. She tried to argue, to cry, to guilt-trip me, but I stayed calm. I knew her game. She was desperate, and desperation makes people do crazy things. Over the next few weeks, I watched her attempts to manipulate the situation, but I also stayed focused on the legal side. I finally got an order to prevent her from selling the house and transferring any more money. I also put a lien on the property, so she couldn't just walk away with everything. I was determined to keep what was rightfully ours. The emotional toll was still heavy. I felt betrayed, angry, and exhausted, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized I'd been living in a fragile illusion of trust, and now I had to pick up the pieces. I learned that some people are capable of incredible deception, and that sometimes love isn't enough to protect you from betrayal. But I also learned that you have to stand up for yourself, no matter how painful it is. I wasn't going to let her ruin my life. I was going to rebuild step by step and make damn sure she paid for what she'd done. Because in the end, justice isn't about revenge. It's about making things right again, even if it takes time. The final few months have been a blur of court dates, legal battles, and trying to pick up the pieces of a life I never thought would be shattered like this. I won't lie. There were nights I thought I'd break. The betrayal, the lies, watching the woman I loved turn into someone so cold and calculating, it all left scars. But amidst the chaos, I found a strange kind of clarity. I realized that I'd been living on autopilot, trusting blindly and ignoring the signs that things weren't right. The lesson was brutal but necessary. Never ignore your instincts and always protect what's yours. The courts finally ruled in my favor. Lisa was ordered to pay back the stolen funds, and the house remained in my name. She was charged with fraud, conspiracy, and theft. Seeing her face in court, defiant, then defeated, was a strange relief. I knew she'd never truly change, and I'd have to keep a close eye on her for years to come. But I also knew I'd survived her betrayal, and I was stronger for it. The aftermath has been a journey of healing. I've been working on rebuilding my trust in people, learning to let go of the anger and focusing on my kids. They've been my anchor through all of this. They don't fully understand what happened, but I've made sure they see that their dad is still here, still standing. I've started therapy to work through the emotional scars and to learn how to move forward without bitterness consuming me. It's not easy, but I remind myself every day that I deserve happiness and peace. Looking back, I see how fragile everything was, how one betrayal can threaten to destroy years of love and trust, but I also see how resilience can emerge from the wreckage. I've learned to be more cautious, more aware, and to never let anyone take advantage of my kindness or trust again. If there's one thing I want others to take away from this, it's that you have to protect yourself, your family, and your finances. Don't ignore the red flags and don't be afraid to fight for what's right, no matter how painful it might be. As for Lisa, I hope she gets whatever help she needs, but I know I can't fix her. The only thing I can do now is focus on myself and my children. We're rebuilding our lives step by step. And while the wounds will take time to heal, I believe that eventually I'll find peace again. I'll learn to trust again, but this time with my eyes wide open. Because in the end, the biggest lesson is that life can throw you the worst surprises, but it's how you respond that defines you. I've responded with strength, with honesty, and with the resolve to never let betrayal break me completely.